A $2.4 billion stadium, a legal battle, and a fan base that won't forget. The Cleveland Browns' latest stadium deal isn't just about football. It's about history, loyalty, and a law that could change the NFL forever. Can Cleveland stop the move, or is another heartbreak inevitable? For decades, the Browns have been more than just a football team. They're a symbol of resilience, passion, and an unwavering connection to the city. The Browns aren't just a franchise, they're part of Cleveland's identity. From the diehards in the Dawg Pound to the generations of families who have bled orange and brown, this team represents something far greater than just wins and losses. But now that connection is getting tested in ways that fans never saw coming. In October 2023, Browns owners Dee and Jimmy Haslam made a stunning announcement. A brand new state-of-the-art stadium would be built in Brook Park, Ohio, a suburb outside Cleveland. The project, valued at a staggering $2.4 billion, promised an enclosed dome, modern amenities, and a vision for the future of the franchise. For the team's ownership, this move was about progress, about keeping up with a rapidly evolving landscape of pro sports. A domed stadium would allow the Browns to host Super Bowls, Final Fours, and major concerts, bringing more revenue and national attention to the franchise. They argue that the Cleveland Browns Stadium that opened in 1999 was outdated and no longer fit to compete with the NFL's newer venues. But for many Clevelanders, it felt like deja vu. Because this isn't the first time the Browns have tried to leave. The city still carries the scars of 1995 when former owner Art Modell shocked the sports world by relocating the team to Baltimore. Cleveland was left without an NFL franchise for 4 painful years, and the betrayal was so deep that even today, Modell's name is still met with bitterness among Browns fans. That's why this latest move has reignited a firestorm of emotions. But unlike other relocation battles in sports, this one comes with a unique twist, because Ohio has a law that could stop the Browns in their tracks. That's right. A legal statute passed nearly 3 years ago in the aftermath of the Browns' original departure was designed to prevent exactly this kind of situation. It's called the Modell Law, and it states that if a pro sports team plays in a tax-funded stadium, it can't relocate without giving the home city a chance to either keep the team or find a local buyer. For nearly 30 years, this law has never been tested in court, but right now, Cleveland officials are preparing for what could be one of their biggest legal battles in sports history. This isn't just about the Browns. This case could change how stadium deals work across the entire NFL. It could determine whether cities have any real power to keep their teams from leaving, and it might just set a precedent that reshapes the business of sports forever. Because at the heart of this battle isn't just a legal fight, it's about loyalty, it's about history, and it's about whether a city can truly hold on to the team that defines it. So what's really at stake here? To understand why this fight is so personal for Cleveland, we need to go back to one of the most infamous moments in NFL history. A moment that left a wound so deep it still hasn't fully healed. The 1995 move that ripped the Browns away from their hometown wasn't just another relocation. It was a betrayal that shook the foundation of the city. That year, team owner Art Modell stunned the sports world by announcing that the Browns would relocate to Baltimore. The decision came seemingly out of nowhere. The Browns had been an institution in Cleveland since 1946. A team with a legacy, a rabid fan base, and a history that stretched back to the golden era of the league. Cleveland loved the Browns, and the Browns were Cleveland, and yet Modell claimed that financial struggles forced his hand, arguing that the team's aging stadium, Cleveland Municipal Stadium, was no longer viable and that the city's refusal to fund a new one left him with no choice but to move. Fans didn't buy it. Cleveland was devastated. Protests erupted outside the stadium. Fans stormed the field during games, tearing out seats as souvenirs. Some even burned Modell's likeness in effigy. It wasn't just about football. It was about a city's identity being ripped away overnight. The legal battles began immediately. Lawsuits were filed. The city fought tooth and nail to keep the team in Cleveland, but in the end, the damage was done. The Browns officially left after the '95 season. For 4 long years, Cleveland was without an NFL franchise. It was football purgatory, a painful reminder of what had been lost. Eventually, in 1999, the NFL granted the city an expansion franchise, allowing the Browns to return. But even though the team came back, the pain never fully faded. Cleveland learned a hard lesson, and the city was determined to make sure it never happened again. That's why in 1996, Ohio lawmakers passed now what is known as the Modell Law, a direct response to the heartbreak that Cleveland had endured. And this law, it's simple but powerful. If a professional sports team plays in a taxpayer-funded stadium, they cannot relocate without first giving the home city a chance to either keep them or find a buyer who will. It was a safety net, one designed to protect fans and prevent owners from abandoning their cities overnight. And for nearly 3 decades, the law has sat on the books unused and untested. But now, with the Browns planning to leave Cleveland city limits for a new stadium in Brook Park, that law is about to face the ultimate test. And the outcome of this battle, it won't just decide the future of the Browns, it could change the entire NFL. The legal fight begins. Shortly after the Browns announced their new stadium plans, the city of Cleveland fired back hard. Mayor Justin Bibb and city officials wasted no time making their stance clear. They weren't just unhappy with the move, they were ready for a fight. Within weeks, the city filed a lawsuit arguing that the Browns' relocation of Brook Park violates the Modell Law, and if the team tried to move forward with their plans, legal action would stop them in their tracks. At the core of Cleveland's case are 2 major points. One, the Browns' current stadium was publicly funded. Tax dollars played a role in its construction and ongoing maintenance, meaning the team can't simply pack up and leave without triggering the Modell Law's protections. The law was designed to prevent exactly this kind of situation, where a city that's invested heavily in a team is left behind with nothing. 2, the economic impact of losing the team would be devastating. Cleveland's lawsuit claims that the city stands to lose $30 million a year in economic output if the Browns relocate. That's millions in lost revenue for local businesses, restaurants, bars, and hotels, many of which rely on Browns home games to survive. On top of that, the city estimates an $11 million hit in tax revenue, a loss that could have serious consequences for public services and community programs. For Cleveland officials, this is more than just a legal fight. It's about protecting the future of the city. The people of Cleveland have invested in this team. They supported this team, and we're not going to stand by while our taxpayers are left behind. That message has been loud and clear from City Hall. Cleveland believes it has the law on their side, arguing that the Browns' move isn't just an inconvenience, it's an illegal breach of trust with the fans in the city that have stood by the team for decades. And make no mistake, this lawsuit isn't just about the Browns. It's about setting a precedent. If Cleveland wins, it could send a message to every city in America. Publicly funded teams can't just walk away whenever they want. But the Browns, they aren't backing down. The Haslam families made one thing very clear. They don't believe the Modell Law applies to them. From the moment Cleveland filed its lawsuit, the Browns' legal team has pushed back aggressively, arguing that the team isn't actually relocating the way the law intended. Their stance, this isn't like when Modell moved the Browns to Baltimore in '95. This time, the team isn't leaving Ohio, isn't leaving Cuyahoga County, and isn't even moving that far from downtown Cleveland. Their lawyers argue that the Modell Law was created to prevent teams from abandoning their cities entirely, not to stop them from moving a few miles away to a neighboring suburb. So, does a move to Brook Park, a location just outside Cleveland city limits, really count as a relocation under the law? That's the first legal battle, but the Browns' attorneys aren't stopping there. They're taking this fight to another level, one that could have major implications for sports teams across the country. The Browns' boldest move, attacking the Modell Law itself. The Haslams aren't just arguing over geography. They're going straight for the law itself, claiming that it shouldn't even exist in the first place. Their legal team is challenging the constitutionality of the Modell Law, arguing that it violates the U.S. Constitution's contract clause, which prohibits states from interfering with private business agreements. The argument is simple. The Browns are a privately owned business, and their lease with the city is a contractual agreement. If Ohio is allowed to enforce a law that forces them to stay, that law could be seen as unconstitutional government interference. And if the court agrees, the Modell Law, a law that's been in place for nearly 30 years, could be struck down entirely. This wouldn't just affect Cleveland. It would mean no city in Ohio could ever use this law to stop a team from leaving. And beyond that, it could open the door for other teams across the country to challenge similar laws in their own states. But that's not the only legal complication at play here, because even if the Browns win both these arguments, they still have one more hurdle to clear. Right now, the Browns are locked into a lease at Cleveland Browns Stadium that runs through the 2028 season. On paper, that means they're legally obligated to keep playing in downtown Cleveland for at least 5 more years, and that's a major pillar of Cleveland's lawsuit. City officials argue that by announcing their plans to move now, the Browns have already breached their contract, even though they haven't physically left yet. The lawsuit claims that the team's public commitment to relocating has damaged the city's leverage, making it harder to negotiate renovations, attract investors, and plan for the future. If the court sides with Cleveland, the Browns could face serious financial penalties or even be forced to stay in their current stadium until the lease expires. But here's where things get even more complicated, because while this legal battle is unfolding in court, there's also a tense negotiation happening behind the scenes. Cleveland's counteroffer, a $1 billion plan to keep the Browns home. City officials aren't just fighting to block the move, they're also making a last-ditch effort to convince the Browns to stay. Instead of letting the team build a brand new stadium in Brook Park, Cleveland's proposed a $1 billion renovation plan to upgrade the current stadium. The idea? Modernize the facilities, improve fan experiences, and keep the Browns in downtown Cleveland while giving many of them the same benefits they get with a new stadium. On the surface, it sounds like a reasonable compromise, but the Haslams aren't buying it. They argue that the existing stadium's outdated beyond repair and that even with $1 billion in upgrades, it still wouldn't compare to a brand new facility. More importantly, the Brook Park location offers more than just a stadium. It gives space and infrastructure to build a whole entertainment district with restaurants, hotels, and commercial spaces surrounding the venue. For the Browns ownership, this isn't just about where they play, it's about long-term financial growth. So while Cleveland's fighting to keep its team, the Browns are fighting for what they see as the future of the franchise, and at this point, neither side's willing to back down. Whenever an NFL team wants to relocate, it isn't just up to the owners. The league itself's got to sign off, and that means the NFL's 32 owners will eventually have to vote on whether the Browns can follow through with their plan to leave downtown Cleveland for Brook Park. And this decision won't just affect the Browns. The league's watching this situation closely because if Cleveland wins this lawsuit and the Modell Law holds up in court, it could set a game-changing precedent for the whole NFL. Suddenly, other teams that play in taxpayer-funded stadiums like the Bills or the Saints or even the Bears could face some major legal hurdles if they ever try to relocate, and that's the last thing the NFL wants. Some owners might even try and pressure the Haslams to settle with Cleveland, urging them to take a deal rather than drag this fight through the court. A drawn-out legal battle could create a roadblock for future relocations, something that owners who rely on stadium leverage absolutely do not want, but so far, neither side's budging. Cleveland refuses to let its team leave without a fight, and the Haslams seem just as determined to push forward with their plan no matter how messy it gets. For Browns fans, this fight is more than a legal battle. It's a clash between loyalty and business, history and progress. Some fans welcome the move, believing that a brand new state-of-the-art stadium is exactly what the franchise needs to compete with the NFL's elite. They argue that an enclosed dome would bring Super Bowls, major concerts, and year-round events to the area, creating more revenue and opportunities. But for others, the idea of the Browns leaving downtown feels like a betrayal. To them, the team isn't just about wins and losses. It's about tradition, community, and the unbreakable connection to the heart of the city. The Browns have played on the shores of Lake Erie for decades, and many believe that's exactly where they belong. And those emotions, they're already boiling over. Protests have erupted outside City Hall, with fans demanding the team honor its leases and stay downtown. Local businesses, many of which depend on the massive game day crowds, have put up banners reading "Keep the Browns Home." And if history tells us anything, the longer this fight drags on, the more intense the battle becomes. The lawsuit is still in the early stages, but one thing is clear: the stakes could not be any higher. Legal experts predict that this battle could drag on for years, with appeals and counterclaims shaping a case that might eventually land in Ohio's Supreme Court, or even federal court if the Haslams' constitutional argument gets traction. Until a final ruling is reached, the Browns' future hangs in the balance. If Cleveland wins, the consequences for the team could be seismic. The Browns might be forced to abandon their Brook Park plans, staying at their current location until their lease expires in 2028. If ownership refuses, they could be pressured to sell the team to a local buyer, keeping the franchise anchored in downtown Cleveland permanently. A victory for the city would also reinforce the Modell Law, proving that taxpayer-funded stadiums come with real obligations and setting a dangerous precedent for any other NFL team eyeing relocation. But if the Haslams win, the landscape of pro sports could shift dramatically. The ruling could strike down the Modell Law altogether, making it easier for teams to leave even when public money's involved. The Haslams and their legal team aren't just fighting for the rights to move to Brook Park. They're fighting for the rights of all team owners to control their franchises without government interference. If they succeed, the case could open the floodgates for relocations across the NFL, MLB, and beyond. The outcome of this legal battle will ripple far beyond just Cleveland. It's going to set a national precedent, shaping the way cities negotiate with teams and how much legal power local governments actually have when public money is at stake. But at its core, this fight isn't just about contract stadiums or even the law itself. It's about something deeper. It's about loyalty. The bond between a city and its team built over generations. It's about history, the stories, traditions, and moments that make sports more than just a game. And most of all, it's about the fight between the business of football and the heart of a city that refuses to be left behind. One way or another, the verdict in this case will change the NFL forever. Do you think the Modell law will hold up in court, or will this case set a new precedent for future relocations? Let us know in the comments. We want to hear your thoughts. We're committed to releasing 2 videos a week, bringing you all the updates as they unfold. So like, share, and subscribe for more visionary builds, and stay tuned for our next big story.